Okay, magandang umaga po, maayong buntag ka natong tanan, and welcome to the Mindanao Hour here in Davao City. We'd like to introduce to you our spokesperson, Secretary Ernesto Abella. Sir.
Good morning. Welcome to Mindanao Hour. Today we're joined by several resource persons. We have to my left Secretary Datu Abdul Kair Alonto. He's Chair of Mindanao Development Authority, or MINDA. We also have to my right our military resource, Brigadier General Gilbert Gapay. He is the Chief and Martial Law Spokesperson, Deputy Commander for East MINCOM. And also we're being joined by ASEC Dixon Hermoso. He's a retired Brigadier General. He's also the Assistant Secretary of OPAP and the lead for the Peace Corridor. I'd like to begin by giving the Joint Task Force Marawi updates on the rebellion in Marawi as of 6 p.m. of 22nd of June 2017. The civilians killed by terrorists, it's 26. Civilians rescued by government troops, 1,663. Terrorists killed, 280. Recovered firearms by government troops from terrorists, now at 298. Government casualties, killed in action, 69. Buildings cleared, 85. Note, the BIFF attack in Pigcawayan, North Cotabato yesterday has been assessed to have no connection to the ongoing Marawi rebellion. It is seen as the BIFF's attempt to recover from more than 2 weeks of setbacks from ongoing operations of the AFP's 6th Infantry Division. Following this incident, herein is the final report on the outcome of the incident. 1. The number of hostages rescued, 31. Number of trapped civilian rescued, 73. Number 2, number of government troops wounded in action, 2. Number of government troops killed in action, 1. Number of BIFF killed in action, 6. Number of BIFF wounded in action, 8. Number of civilians killed in action, 1 killed by BIFF. Number of civilians wounded in action, 1. Number of internally displaced persons, 367 households, or 1,707 individuals. The focus of Marawi military operations remains the continued clearing of Marawi of remaining armed terrorists that continue to pose pockets of resistance to the advancing troops. 2. Continue rescue of trapped residents to include those held as hostages. 3. The continued recovery of civilian casualties or cadavers. 4. Assist the LGUs, CSOs, NGOs on relief operations. And 5. To prepare to assist government LGUs for the rehabilitation, reconstruction, rebuilding phase as soon as the rebellion is quelled. A joint task group, Ranao, was formed to focus on this. Significant developments: monitored increasing willful intention arson activities of the rebels in various areas of the city. And 2, very significantly, the successful clearing of 85 buildings and more to follow. The constraints remain the continued use of snipers, IEDs, and RPGs from remaining vantage positions will remain a challenge. Add to this the use of combustible materials and other incendiary devices. Also, the terrorists' use of non-combatant civilians as shields and situating themselves in mosques. General Año, Chief of Staff, AFP, reiterates that AFP is prepared to embark on other key tasks such as rehab and reconstruction of Marawi. It has prepared the combat engineering brigades from the Army and the Navy for immediate deployment as soon as the clearing operations are completed. I would now like to defer to General Gapay to give us updates from the ground.
Thank you, sir. Secretary Abella, Secretary Alonto, Secretary Hermoso. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to read and give you a brief update on the implementation of martial law in Eastern Mindanao. A month after the declaration of martial law in Mindanao, Eastern Mindanao Command has been steadfast in carrying out its mandate of securing and shielding the area from terrorist attacks. Following the dictum and principles of necessity, proportionality, and strict adherence to the rule of law and human rights. I am glad to report that after a month, we have prevented the spillover of terrorism in Eastern Mindanao. Said success is attributed to the aggressive security operations of our units, the tightened security measures being implemented in the area, the active coordination and collaboration of other law enforcement agencies, local government units, and the support of the general public. To date, we have conducted a total of 13,149 checkpoints all over Eastern Mindanao, while curfews are continuously being implemented in 210 municipalities and barangays in our area of responsibility. This is in coordination with the LGUs and the PNP. We are continuously engaging different organizations and sectors to explain our efforts in the implementation of martial law, to continuously assess and innovate our measures and activities that will enhance its implementation. We have engaged the Association of Regional Executives and National Agencies, or ARENA, last Monday. And the other day, we have also engaged the business sector, specifically the Japanese Chamber of Commerce and other member European and American, as well as Canadian chambers of commerce. After a month, we are also proud to report that based on the statement of the Commission on Human Rights, there is no reported abuse committed by our troops relative to the implementation of martial law. We shall continue to observe the safeguards we have established, like the establishment of the Multi-Sector Advisory Group, legal action or quick reaction teams, continuous troop information education on the rules of engagements, and other guidelines as we continuously implement martial law in Eastern Mindanao. As we enter the second month of implementation, we'd like to assure the public that we shall continue to work for the safety and security of everyone as mandated to us with utmost respect to human rights and the rule of law.
Thank you. We'd now like to refer to the chair of MINDA to have Madam Poe references. Yeah, thank you. Okay, please.
Thank you, Secretary Belli, and to our friends in the media and our people. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. It has been 31 days since the crisis in Marawi City, triggered by the attack on the city by the Daesh extremists on May 23, has begun. But while government is now on the upper hand and the ranks of the Daesh extremists are dwindling in the face of a relentless military operations, both on the ground and air, the consequent human cost to civilian lives and property, not mention casualties among our valiant soldiers and extremist insurgents, is appalling. Needless to say, Marawi City has been emptied of its more than 200,000 plus residents, most of whom are now suffering in evacuation centers and private homes of friends and relatives in nearby towns and cities like Iligan, Cagayan de Oro, even as far as Cebu, Metro Manila, and Davao. The tragedy in Marawi City underscores the urgent need to address and resolve the Bangsamoro question. It should now be obvious to all, including government and the people of this country, that the failure to address the Bangsamoro question has invited the invasion of foreign Daesh extremism, such as ISIS, which feeds on the frustration of the Bangsamoro people towards failed peace processes with mainstream liberation fronts, as well as the Moros' desperation in the face of historical and current injustices that have bred entrenched poverty and institutionalized social, political, economic, and cultural marginalization under the status quo. The Marawi tragedy should propel us now to look at the merits of federalism as proposed by our beloved brother President, Mayor Rodrigo Roa Duterte. The current unitary state system, which is a carryover from Spanish and American colonialism, has utterly failed not only to resolve the myriad problems besetting this country since its birth as a republic in 1946, but it has absolutely failed to address the root cause of the Bangsamoro question, which invariably fuels the conflict and continues to fester Mindanao and Sulu. Today, as the violence in Marawi starts to abate, as Daesh ISIS faces inevitable defeat, inshallah, alhamdulillah, thank God, in the hands of our government, armed forces, the preparation for rehabilitation and reconstruction of the devastated city and its people begins and dominates official conversation. But even if such preparation is in order, as it is in the bounden duty of the government to save a beleaguered segment of its national constituency from the horrors of debilitating war and conflict, in the longer term, the resolve to prevent such tragedy from happening again is imperative. It is imperative because of its implications on state security and human security. This means we have to eliminate and or resolve the causes through which Daesh ISIS has been able to find a foothold in the Bangsamoro and lure our desperate youth into this depraved and perverse ideology. It is in this context, thus, that henceforth we have to return to and from focus on the original flagship agenda of the President for system change, the constitutional shift from the present unitary state to federalism. This is not just a matter of reform. It has become a matter of survival for the Philippine state in light of the global menace of Daesh extremism that has, like a mestatizing cancer, now invaded our country through its back door. The Marawi City tragedy ought to jolt us out of our smug complacency and oblivious treatment of the Bangsamoro question. We in the Bangsamoro therefore support without reservation the President's determination to federalize the country through constitutional change. Towards this end, aware of the two conflicting tracks in the separate peace process involving the Moro National Liberation Front and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front of Brother Nomiswari, and their concomitant complexities of proposed convergence, we are determined to immediately convoke, with the official blessings of the President, the All-Moro Convention to expedite exclusively the exclusivity or the participation of all sectors of the Bangsamoro, and as well as the convergence of the two separate tracks, which means the peace agreement in the peace processes with the Moro fronts. The All-Moro Convention will prepare the common Moro platform in the form of a proposed consolidated and comprehensive Moro law based on consensus, inclusivity, and convergence, in line and in preparation for federalism, which the convention will submit to the Constitutional Commission that will prepare the draft of the new Constitution of the Federal Republic of the Philippines, whether for Congress sitting as a Constituent Assembly or for a Constituent Convention. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Secretary Alonso. We'd now like to defer to Secretary Dixon Hermoso to give us an update regarding the peace corridor, after which we'll have the Q&A.
Good morning to everyone. Last May 29, the President met Kagi Murad Ibrahim of the MILF and the chair of our government implementing panel, Inday Irene Santiago. And from that day on, the establishment of the Peace Corridor should be put up in Ground Zero in Marawi to retrieve and recover trapped civilians and open a humanitarian corridor from Malabang to Marawi City. And it was done on June 2. From then on, when we established the Joint Coordination Monitoring Assistance Team in Malabang, Lanao del Sur, and in Marawi, we get this feedback and reactions from the people that they really denounce what this group, the Mauti and the Abu Sayyafs, did to them in their community. So from that moment on, we were able, in Ground Zero, we were able to retrieve and recover, as of this late, 277 trapped civilians, wounded, children, women, elderly, and those that are really in need of this humanitarian effort. We coordinated this with the emissaries we have to connect us to the Mauti, and we bridge this to the government leadership in Marawi City for us to be given a respite of taking out or retrieving the trapped civilians. Other than that, we were able to open up the humanitarian corridor from Malabang. For all we know, we thought that the IDPs of Marawi City are just in Iligan, but there are so many that evacuated to the lake, the towns straddling along the Lake Lanao. There are so many, so when we opened this corridor, many humanitarian groups already delivering assistance to the beleaguered people of the Lanao del Sur province and Marawi City. So as of this report, there are so many humanitarian groups now delivering relief assistance and medical assistance to the towns surrounding the Lake Lanao.
Thank you. Before we go into the Q&A from the media, local media, we'd like to make references to certain questions that have already been texted in. And this one is from Leila Salavaria, Inquirer. What role will Indonesia and Malaysia play in the Marawi conflict? We have a statement regarding the matter. We're making a collective effort on the PH trilateral agreement with Indonesia and Malaysia. We're making a collective effort against terrorism and extremism. Yesterday, foreign military intelligence officials from the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia had a fruitful and productive discussion on a trilateral cooperation aimed at preventing extremists and terrorists from establishing operational bases in Southeast Asia. The three countries have agreed to work together to jointly develop and implement counter-terrorism and measures and strategies. Let us underline that their joint aim, the end game, is to prevent the establishment of operational bases in Southeast Asia. Also, on Australia's offer to send 2 military surveillance aircraft to Marawi. Statement. As we previously stated, we would gladly welcome any form of foreign assistance allowed under our Constitution to help suppress the rebellion in Marawi. Our defense officials are in close coordination with their Australian counterparts in the latter's offer of providing surveillance support to the armed forces of the Philippines. Next, on Senator Gordon's proposal to convert Marawi into a tourist hub. Is that all right? We totally agree with Senator Gordon. The Department of Tourism recognizes the potential of Marawi as a tourist destination, considering its cool weather overlooking a scenic lake, plus the attraction of the university. We are hopeful that the rehabilitation of Marawi will also include the creation of a tourism master plan for the area. Next, on the Marawi Rehabilitation Fund, the Duterte administration is now preparing a comprehensive multi-year Marawi reconstruction plan. A task force consisting of the Department of Education, the Department of Health, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, the Department of Public Works and Highways, DPWH, and the Department of Agriculture, DA, the Department of National Defense, the Department of Interior and Local Government, and the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council will be convened to make an assessment of the situation. Repairs, rehabilitation, and reconstruction of public infrastructure in Marawi will be funded. As in a conversation with Secretary Ben Diokno this morning, he did say that he affirmed that the financial aid as promised, the 10 billion as promised, will come from PAGCOR, and reconstruction of infra will come from the GAA. That Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation for the President's financial assistance and the social welfare assistance to Marawi victims will come from GAA. GSIS and SSS members may apply for loans from their respective institutions. The Land Bank of the Philippines and the Development Bank of the Philippines may open lending facilities to Marawi entrepreneurs. Housing will be provided to the families of soldiers and police killed in action through the National Housing Authority. The education of children of the soldiers and police killed in action from K to 12 plus Tech Voc or college for a maximum of 2 children will be provided through the Department of Education, Technical Education Skills Authority, and the 113 state universities and colleges. We are now open to questions from the floor.
Okay, may we ask Vina Araneta of ABS Davao for her question, please? And next is Joseph Morong, GMA Manila.
Yeah. To Secretary Abella. Sir, how would you rate the first month of martial law? Have you achieved what you sought to achieve?
Well, we do not go by ratings, but we do say that we have actually preempted the establishment of a vilayat, and so I believe and we have already started to work into agreements with the neighboring nations. So the main goal of preventing is actually has already been, I believe, hugely successful. We have prevented the establishment of this wilayat, and we have now entered into agreements and also with the neighboring countries so that this will not recur. So largely we consider that those are the things we measure. Thank you.
Will you lift martial law anytime soon, or are you going to ask for an extension from Congress before 60 days is over?
That will depend on the recommendation of the Secretary of National Defense of the Armed Forces or the implementers of martial law.
Mm-hmm. Sir, yung sa Marawi din po, balikan ko lang yung financial aid. How much is the cost for yun nga yung 10 billion pesos?
Well, like we said, the assessment has not yet been made. Task Force Karanao, the task force, the group that is in charge, is actually being ready, is actually preparing for this. They're laying the groundwork, and as soon as the military says that the Lanao is cleared, they will go into action. And so until then, we will have to wait for their assessment.
So no timeline po on how long?
We do not offer timelines. We just go by progress reports. Thank you.
Okay. Sir, question din po kay General Gapay. Meron pong mga lumalabas ngayon na storya po yung about sa sinabi daw ng BIFF na next target nila is si President Duterte following the Pigkawayan incident. And then to Sir Hermoso po, how can it affect yung peace talks din po?
Okay, that pronouncement of the BIFF is a desperate pronouncement, ano? Because what happened in Pigkawayan recently was in retaliation of and somehow a diversionary attack resulting from the setbacks, major setbacks they have been experiencing in their stronghold in Maguindanao, specifically the SPMS box, because our forces there have also intensified operations against the BIFF. These are complementary operations to our operations in Marawi. So the armed forces is not only operating in Marawi, but we have several operations ongoing all over Mindanao, addressing various terrorist groups, and one of these is the BIFF. So what happened there is a retaliatory attack, and it's not connected with the Marawi operations.
Well, as to the effect in the peace process, the BIFF deprivation yesterday and the other day in Tigkawayan, North Cotabato, has no effect to the ongoing implementation of the agreement with the MILF. It has no effect to the ongoing talks because BIFF is not MILF.
Okay, thank you, Vina. Joseph Morong, and next is Princeton from Inquirer.
Morning, sir. Kay Secretary Abella po muna. Sir, I think the quote from Australia, from the Australian Defense Ministry, is that our government has already accepted their offer. So, 3 Orion airplanes yata, surveillance airplanes yan, sir, aircraft. So natanggap na, nag-oo na po tayo. Can we know kung saan siya i-deploy? Maybe General Gapay also can shed a few more details on where this surveillance aircraft will be deployed.
Okay. In every military operation, the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capability is very important.
Yes.
So having these capabilities, it could be used in any military operation, not just in Marawi, but of course in all other operations in Mindanao.
When do we expect, sir, the Australian surveillance aircraft?
I really don't have the information right now, but it is a welcome development to boost our capability as far as ISR is concerned.
Okay, Secretary Bella, the United States, I think some of the Republican senators are worried that the ISIS is trying to establish its base in Southeast Asia, and they have interest in Southeast Asia. They want a high-profile named operation in the Philippines to help combat, to fight ISIS, meaning they want a bigger role. Are we open to that idea, sir?
Like the President said, we're quite capable at this stage. We welcome any support, but at this stage we take the lead along with the regional states around us, and as we have demonstrated, we have already actually preempted the establishment of such a state supposedly, and so you call it grace or what, but the resilience of the Filipino. But we have actually shown that we can actually back up our statements of an independent foreign stance. However, like we said, as has been demonstrated, we do welcome support.
But at this moment, sir, do I take it to mean that, hindi muna natin kailangan ng Amerika?
There is no report on accepting that offer.
Okay, sir.
If it is. Yeah.
Sir, on the BIFF, for both Secretary Abella and General Gapay, is there an alliance between Maute and BIFF?
Yes, BFF, particularly the Bungos faction, they both, just like the Maute, they both swore allegiance to ISIS sometime in 2015. So I think that's the connection and the link between the two groups.
Yeah, but that's BIFF to ISIS and then Maute to ISIS. But Maute to BIFF, meaning can they coordinate attacks?
Oh yes, as far as tactical alliance is concerned, that is very possible, and we have seen that in some operations, wherein BIFF fighters are sending augmentation to not just Maute but also other local terrorist groups in the country.
In this case, sir, how serious of a threat is BIFF?
Actually, it's not as serious as the one we're fighting in Marawi, because BFF is contained in their stronghold in SPNS Pax, and our troops there is doing very well in containing the BIFF.
But how do we prevent, sir, from the BIFF from becoming another Maute? Because your assessment earlier on, Maute was just a ragtag family run group, but now it's become an international, high-profile terrorist group.
Just like Maute Group, BFF is also a target of being a local terrorist group. It's also a target of military operations. A dedicated unit is right now tasked to address this threat. And just like our efforts against the Maute Group, we will sustain our operations against the BF until they have been decimated.
Just two more questions for Secretary Abella and ASEC Hermoso. Sir, nasagot na po ni General Agapay kanina, but how is the palace taking yung threat ng BIFF to target the president?
Well, we first and foremost, I think we need to just go back to the narrative as already expressed by Secretary ASEC Hermoso. The fact that there's actually no ground support for them. The local Muslim community, the Manao especially, do not want this. For whatever reason that they're dealing with this, whether it's personal interest or what, there is no ground support for them. Even reports from the evacuees, they're saying actually that they do not like this, they do not want this. And so it goes back to that. I think we need to go back to the fact that really this is these are isolated groups that are brilliant at media manipulation. However, they do not have the necessary support coming from the ground
You
itself.
don't think they can carry out any attack on the president?
As expressed, as shown, history based on results, no.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
ASEC Hermoso, nung na-ambush po namin si Presidente nung, I think sa CDO, ang sabi niya, on Monday, he will accept and sign the BBL. Can you provide more details?
Well, actually, it's beyond me to answer this political question, but
Procedural, sir.
what I heard is the President will be in Malacanang on the 27th for this thing. But I do not know the other development on the matter.
That you can confirm, sir, that it will be submitted to BBL.
I'm not privy to the details because I'm just working on the ground. And for sure, there will be something big that will happen in the next few days about the BBL.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, Joseph. May I, sir, question for General Gapay from Ina Andolong. General Anyo expressed concerns yesterday that more foreign terrorists may plan to go to the Philippines with ISIS weakening in Mosul. What measures are being taken to prevent this from happening? Do we have new estimates on how many foreign terrorists are working with Maute and are in Mindanao? And do you have the identities, names of these people, and what kind of support do foreign terrorists usually provide local terrorists in the country? General Gapay.
Yes, firstly, these foreign terrorists may have slipped into our country using our back door in the south because it's very porous as we know it. And we are not also discounting the possibility that some may have slipped in the country through our airports and seaports. So I guess we have to really tighten and enhance security measures as far as immigration is concerned. But on the part of the military and the security sector, there's really a need to enhance security of our southern backdoor. It's very porous. We need to enhance. We have to intensify maritime patrols. The recent trilateral agreement is a welcome development because with Malaysia, Indonesia assisting us, the joint patrols there would really enhance and plug our porous borders in the south. Of course, the exchange of information, the tracking of foreign terrorists would also be helpful. Now, as far as those already in country, based on the latest intelligence report, and as based on the pronouncement of their chief of staff, there are some 40 foreign terrorists in country now. Of course, we have identified them. Most of them are Malaysians, Indonesians. Some are Arabs and Pakistanis. So we have their names and they are identified.
How many were neutralized? Because some, according to some in Marawi, there were foreigners who were also in the fight.
Yes, there were 8 neutralized in Marawi, as reported by our forces on the ground.
Thank you so much. Princeton of Inquirer.
Sir Gapay, sir, good morning. Reaction lang po sa claim ng human rights groups na may mga abuses daw po with the implementation of martial law, especially sa southern at south central Mindanao, sir.
In Eastern Mindanao, we haven't received any report of any human rights abuses committed by our troops as we implement martial law.
In fact, CHR itself has said that there's none.
Okay. So there's a follow-up question for General Gapay from JP. Was there any lapse in immigration procedures when the 40 foreign ISIS fighters ended up entering the country's shores to help local extremists in building a wilayat in Mindanao? What is the government doing to prevent more of this happening?
Well, we assess that most of these foreign terrorists have slipped inside the country to the back door. But if there are some who have slipped through our airports and seaports, I think we really have to also tighten up and strengthen immigration procedures in our airports. But of course, this is the turf of the Bureau of Immigration.
Okay, may we hear now from Ruth Dumandan of RGMA Davao.
To ASEC Hermoso, sir, what's your assessment on the partnership of the government and MILF in saving trapped civilians in Marawi through the peace corridor?
Well, really, I can vouch with their sincerity and their volunteerism and their spirit to help us in this peace corridor. There are 50 of them that we organize into 5 teams, and they're the ones going inside the ground zero in Marawi to retrieve trapped civilians, and they did good. Until now, they're doing it, and they're really partners now. And even the security of the peace corridor that traversed from Malabang to Marawi, they're with us. They joined the government and the security of the road and the convoy of humanitarian goods.
Okay. A follow-up, ASEC. Will this help build trust of the people to MILF? There was a survey recently that MILF is getting low trust rating survey done by SWS.
Pardon me?
Will this help build trust to the people to MILF? Just recently, the SWS conducted a survey, and the result was MILF is getting low trust rating.
Well, we can see their sincerity in helping the government, especially when Kagi Murad Ibrahim went to the president on day 1, or after the day the siege of Marawi started. They talked to the president. They even volunteered to help. They denounced the Mauti, the terrorists, and even support the declaration of martial law. And now we can see the provision of this with this peace corridor, that they are in it and they're helping us, and we hope that this confidence building will reverberate to the people of the country when the law is passed, the BBL is passed. So the MILF now is really a partner for peace and development in Mindanao.
Okay, so just a follow-up on the question about human rights violations at Marawi. There was a statement made by the National Interfaith Humanitarian Mission saying that there was a common cases of human rights violations in Marawi. Just want to quote, itong forcible evacuation, indiscriminate bombardment, destruction of properties, divestment of properties, threat, harassment, intimidation, especially in the evacuation area. In fact, the Congress, I guess, would like to have a investigation on this human rights cases at Marawi, sir. Secretary Abella.
Let me just go back. No, let me just go back to the president's instruction to the military is to protect and save lives. That is the general intention. Okay. The president likewise noted that if one is a law-abiding and peace-loving citizen, martial law is not a problem, and that one should worry about because martial law is intended for the lawless elements and the rebels around. The armed forces of the Philippines will thus guarantee the safety of each citizen who are doing the right things and not the wrong things and not breaking the law. Also, the enforcement and implementation in Mindanao takes into account the complete regard of human rights, international humanitarian law, and other protocols that have already been established in the military. Be that as it may, if there are any complaints, our armed forces are open to receiving these complaints and acting on them immediately. However, for example, being told to move and, for example, what's happening in the ground, the president has already apologized for that. And the Maranaos have already accepted it. And I think they should, at a certain stage, there should be, some of these are really knee-jerk reactions of certain leftist groups. And I think we should, we should really just come together and be more unified and act as if we're all Filipinos concerned for one concern. Remember, we are not one another's enemies. We are actually supposed to be united against a common enemy. And actually what we're having is, is somebody trying to establish a state within a state. That is a clear and present danger. What don't we get about that? I think it's about time that we really just grew up and became more mature and became more politically more sophisticated and actually, aside from that, we're really just more concerned and supportive of one another. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'd like to follow up this question to General Gapay, as raised by Joseph. From RMN Manila, Deo de Guzman, paano nyo nasabi na walang koneksyon ang Pigkawayan incident sa Marawi? Sinasabi nyo rin na Maute and BIFF ay konektado and can support each other. General Gapay.
Yes, but for this particular incident, it's more on a retaliation and diversion to the setbacks they're having in Maguindanao. That's why they attacked Pigkawayan, the two barangays there. And another thing is we have received some reports from the civilians there that the BFF who attacked were also engaged in foraging and even looting some civilian houses in those barangays. So there's no, for this particular incident, there is no direct connection with the Marawi operations.
Okay, thank you, General Gapay. For Secretary Abella, this is a question, clarification from Philippine Star Ace Romero. Paki-clarify po, yung rehab funds di na po galing sa PAGCOR, kundi sa national budget.
Ano na?
Yung PAGCOR, yung rehab funds di na po galing sa PAGCOR. Not from PAGCOR, but from national budget na.
Ang nilinaw ko po kanina na yung financial aspect ay magagaling po sa yung financial assistance na ipinangako ng presidente, magagaling po sa PAGCOR. Pero yung mga infra, yung ibang mga social services ay magagaling po sa GAA. Yun po.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, Maritz of Mohay of PTV.
Good morning po. Sir, pinaliwanag niyo na kanina na for this particular incident, walang connection yung BIFF incident with the Marawi happening right now. Pero when we went there, merong mga lumalabas na issues na possible na may galit kay Pangulo. I mean, direktang galit sa Pangulo, yung mga BIFF members. That's why they even burned and torn down yung pictures ni Pangulo and wrote some messages dun sa walls sa may school ng Malagakit. How do you, do you confirm that?
Okay, these are desperate moves and actions by the BIFF. They were expecting a big result out of that attack because almost 100 of them attacked two barangays in Pigkawayan. It was a significant number, and they were expecting a result in the furtherance of what they want to achieve. That papapansin ba na we're still here, we're still a force to reckon with, but it turned out to be otherwise. That's why nung napahiya na sila, so before they fled, they destroyed some the schools there, classrooms, and even the picture of our president, and they uttered certain things. So parang these are desperate moves on their part.
Thank you. Okay, there's a question for Secretary Alonto from JP Bencito, Manila Standard. Last May 26, President Duterte, in a speech in Iligan, said that he asked you, Secretary Alonto, and PA for OFW's Abdullah Mamao to talk with neutral forces and see if the ongoing strife in Mindanao could still be fixed by talking. Sir.
Yes, in fact, after receiving the instruction from the President, The same day we were in Marawi. I was there. And we have seen how it started, how people were moving out. And virtually everybody have evacuated, including government officials. That is precisely why I have given instruction to the provincial governor, the vice governor, and the city mayor to stay put. And since they were no longer employees, because they also allowed, even the drivers, government drivers were allowed to evacuate with their families. It becomes more of a family affair, where we have the family of Gandamra and the family of Dewana Lontus. So they were running the government. The government was there, the tribal works was there, and I told them, you have to stay here. Make this as your Alamo as your last time. The state, and it was a family, and in fact, immediately I communicated with the president that we have one bodies of 2,000 ready to fight with the government, on the side of the government. And instructions were made, and then we did it. And in fact, the tribal operations were done, and that is precisely where men that came in that second day, where we started our operation. And in fact, we are thanking also the cabinet spouses for providing that assistance, and in the Air Force for the airlift of the goods. But what is there, and what our people have to understand, particularly doubting Thomas's, martial law has been declared. The president have crossed the Rubicon, not turning back. We did not, the government of Duterte did not declare war against the good people of Marawi. No. We, the government, did not attack Marawi. Marawi was attacked. And this is one area where the people, those doubting Thomases, what the need of the martial law, because all the ingredients that requires the declaration of martial law is there. Rebellion is there. The ASJ is there. And this ASJ comes mostly from the MLF family. And then you have the BFF. And then you have this Daesh right now, this ISIS. Now, if they are not talking about, and they are not even satisfied about the rebellion, there is that invasion. Although gradually, because we were made to report to the president immediately, in fact, on the fourth day, we identified some of those casualties on that side on the ground. And there were foreign elements, foreign nationals involved, about 8 of them. More than 20, almost about 30 plus casualties on the side of the ICs. But 8 of those were foreign nationals, which even their countries have acknowledged 2 of their nationals. Now, these are the things that we have to. And immediately after that, we recommended to the president through a memo, and I presented it to him, that we also need the operation, the cooperation of our neighboring countries, of our friends, particularly BNP IAGA, in particular Indonesia and Malaysia, of course with the support of Brunei, that this must be a concerted effort, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's only the security of Marawi. We have to stop this and contain Marawi, because what will happen in Marawi might happen in Kuala Lumpur or in Jakarta. These are the things where I've taken on the primary concerning the securities, and this, of course, with due respect to our people in the security community, where we have to encourage, and it has the support of Mindanao, good people of Mindanao, that this is jointly have to be addressed by the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia, because it is the same. This is a war of annexation. They want to annex, as what the good secretary referred to as the wilaya. Wilaya in Arabic and in English, it is a province. There is a war of annexation to make Marawi City as the capital of the province of the ICs, and that is the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, where you are referring to now as the ICs. Now, they want it. Now, these are the things also that we have to look into, and in fact, deeper on this, because the combination has been made, and then with the strategic leaders in Mindanao we have sat with and talked with and exchanged ideas on this, and then finding out on the ground exactly from an invisible source. We did it, and we have provided the government all of the supports through the office of the president and to the president himself personally. This is a war of annexation. This is not only a rebellion, and we have to stop it. Otherwise, the next might be the capitals of our neighbors. And it's happening, what happened in Aleppo, what happened in Syria and in Baghdad and in Iraq must not happen here, but it happened, and it did happen in Marawi. The humanitarian, the damage, the collateral damage has been there, and then this may take some time for us to reconstruct, rehabilitate the area, particularly the lives of these people who suffered and subjected to this barbaric. Not, in fact, this is not a word of religion also, and we want to spell it out. This is not a word of religion. In fact, it is even blasphemous to refer to these people as Muslims, because there is nothing in the Quran that will say that you have to fight and do this and burn your own house. This is even as simple as we have told it, even if your own house that you own it and you build it, you burn it, and you will still have to deal with the government, because that is simple arson. This one, we will attack. And it is, in fact, with the support of our people, came out openly. And we are, in fact, if this will not be resolved, even the extension, if it will be the recommendation of our security people through our martial administrator, the good Secretary Delpin Lorenzana, and if they feel that there is a need to extend martial law, then we are asking for it. It must be extended so that we can solve this problem. It will not happen in your city. And mind you, gentlemen, what happened there, as the saying goes,
Okay.
they have come in the night, and if we knew your life, we will fight as if it is our own. Because if they come in the night, they will come for you in the morning.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there's a follow-up for that. Joanne, you have a question? Yeah, Joanne. Joanne of Nikki, right? Ah, yeah.
Good morning, General Gapay. There was a report that Malaysian IS leader Mahmoud Ahmad was killed during the operations. Could you tell us about that?
So we don't have the details of that information.
But the report has reached you. Do we at least know when did you receive that report? Was there any specifics on the reported killing of Mahmoud Ahmad?
So far, none.
We don't have the details of that report
Okay.
as of now.
Thank you, Joanne. Sir Gapay, there is another clarification here. Sinabi niyo kasi yung direct threat ng BIFF kay President Duterte ay desperate pronouncement. This is a question from Raymond Tinaza of Bombo Radio. So meaning walang capability ang BIFF to do this. So no need to adjust the security of the President, and the public is assured of his safety. Another question related to this from Hannah Sancho of UNTV. Mas lalo po bang hindi makikita in public si Pangulong Duterte dahil sa threat ng BIFF? General Gapay.
So with a strong political will being demonstrated by the President, it really, sabi nga niya, from his words, marami siyang kaaway na he's making many enemies. And of course, our PSG, Presidential Security Group, is making some adjustments in this. And of course, security measures are being assessed from time to time for the safety and security of our President.
Okay, we will accommodate two more questions, but there's another question here for Secretary Abella. Ano daw po ang pinagkakaabalahan ng Pangulong Duterte kapag nagpapahinga? Baka ma-miss na naman po siya ng kritiko at media. Sino po yung, from Leo of RGMA? RMN. Leo Palo.
So ang tanong po, ano ginagawa niya kung nagpapahinga siya?
Natutulog.
Ayun.
What a question.
Matalino naman pala eh. May babasahin po ako patungkol dun sa tanong kanina pahabol, patungkol po dun sa, sa Australian. Babasahin ko po. Well, galing po sa kanila, sinabi na nila, yung basically yun lang pala, na tinanggap, ang tawag nito, I recently spoke with my counterpart Secretary of Defense, Delphin Lorenzana, about how Australia can assist the Philippines in its fight against extremists. We agreed that the best way to defeat terrorism in our work is for us to work together. Okay, so yun ang kanilang basically generic yung statement nila na pero hindi po nila, wala silang reference tungkol sa actual pagtanggap. Okay? But it has been offered. Salamat po. Thank you very much.
Okay. Last two questions. We'll hear from Rudolph Alamao, BIA, then last question from PNA, Ayan Meliahor. Okay.
To General Gapay, yung naiwan po na Mauti, are they just trapped or they dug in to fight to the finish? If ma-liberate po na natin yung Marawi, will we see the total destruction of the terrorist group?
Yeah, destruction of the terrorist groups holding up in Marawi. But of course, based on the arrest we're having right now, we have been implementing the arrest orders. This gives us a picture of how the expanse of their network is. So, but right now the focus is really ridding this Maute group of their armed capability, their capability to launch terrorist acts. And after that, we will run after their networks, their supporters, up to the last member, so that they won't thrive anymore in our country.
Okay. Thank you. Last question from Ayan of PNA.
Good morning. To Asek Dixon, sir, what are the challenges facing the peacekeepers in retrieving more or saving more trapped civilians from the conflict zone in Marawi?
Of course, they're taking the risk. They're civilians and they volunteered themselves to go into ground zero. The risk is high. They know this. The only thing is they're also Maranaos. They know what is happening inside in ground zero. They equally share the burden of those people being trapped there and still continuing up to this moment. We know na marami pang dapat kunin doon, lalo na yung mga sugatan na civilians, mga bata, matatanda. At there are so many stories behind it. And if you are there, mapatutulo yung luha mo dahil maraming mga nagawa yung ating mga volunteers.
So will you see, do you see this partnership graduate to higher level, like partnering in rehabilitating Marawi?
Yes, actually, in the incident 2 days ago in Pigkawayan, our ceasefire mechanisms, both in the government and the MILF, worked together and helping the military contain the situation. That two barangays of Malagakit and Simsiman, especially Simsiman in Pigkawayan, is a community of the MILF. So what they did, they blocked that place from the incursion of this BIFF. That is why, if you notice, the BIFF started attacking Barangay Malagakit at 5:30 in the morning, and it ended at 5:30 in the afternoon because also of the help of the MIL.
To General Gapay, sir, hindi ba mag-spread yung activities ng BIF sa ibang areas naman ng Mindanao?
Based on the reports coming from JTF Central, the BFF during the pursuit operations went back to their stronghold in Maguindanao, in SPMS box. So they were contained once again there, and of course security measures are in place to see to it that there be no spillover here in Eastern Mindanao area.
Sir, pinapatanong lang, sir, yung security measures po for the Monday's celebration of Idil Fitr Davao, sa areas po ng Eastern Com. Given that there are many memos and other texts threatening to conduct atrocities in key cities in the Philippines.
Okay, of course, the security measures we have set up at the start of martial law will continue. Checkpoints, curfews, security patrols, particularly in the areas where there will be some celebrations for Idil Fitr. But we have also touched base with Maranao communities, Muslim communities here in Eastern Mindanao, and jointly we are crafting extra extra measures, particularly where big celebrations will be held.
Okay. Final question from Joseph Morong, then the final statement of Secretary Abelio.
I just would like to pick up on your point. You said that the PSG is making adjustments on the president's security details.
Every engagement is a different one. So it depends on the area of engagement. So they have to make adjustments if it's in Luzon, Visayas, or Mindanao, and based on the level of threat. So not all engagements have the same level of security preparation.
But does it have anything to do with the BIFF threat?
Not really, but that would be in general
Okay.
terms.
All right, sure. Thank you, sir.
I believe one of the reasons why, one of the lessons we can take away from this situation in Mindanao is that we have people coming from the outside because they believe in a strong narrative. They have a very strong story that they want to establish a province in Southeast Asia and specifically in the Philippines. I believe this is also, in a sense, a wake-up call for Filipinos to be able to come together and begin to believe that we have a higher narrative aside from our local, regional, personal interests. I think it's high time that we continue to build up on our values, family values, and also higher values, and also go back to the fact that what we are really, like the good secretary said earlier, we are actually defending. And what are we defending? We're really defending the Filipino way of life. We're defending our sense of community. We're defending our sense of higher values. But we're not defending ourselves against other people. We're simply saying that we want to establish what we truly and honestly believe that we can have as the President has said, a comfortable life. A comfortable life that is based on common prosperity, common humanity, law and order, understanding, and support. So I believe it's really high time for us to really, again, come together and believe that we can establish the Filipino way of life. Good morning. God bless.
Thank you so much to our guests this morning here in Lisfrain, Davao City, in our program Mindanao Hour. We'd like to thank our media friends, not only from Davao, but the Malacanang Press Corps. And happy birthday to Secretary Bebot Belio. Back to PTV and Radio Pilipinas.
Yes.
Is it?